Okay, I am gonna skip the credits so we can get right into our panel. How did that play for everyone? Good, good.
Really frightening.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and reintroduce our panel. We have, let's see if I do this. Maybe make it a little better. So tonight we have Jeremy Bailey, Ken Watts, Heather Heward, and John White, who are going to talk to us a little bit about some of their takeaways from this documentary, as well as sharing some of the work that they've been doing. And so I was going to actually kind of do this by maybe trying to, in my mind, go from kind of a broader perspective out, and then all the way down to the resident perspective with Ken. So I think, let's see. I'm going to start with Jeremy. Jeremy, are you back on the call?
Yes, Paula.
Okay, great. And now I want to also I would like to also, in addition to the PowerPoint, share the video. I'm not quite sure how to do that. Are you guys seeing other people? Are you seeing Jeremy on camera as well? You're not. You're just seeing the PowerPoint, right?
That will the sharing or the view that people can see of their own screens is one of their own settings that they can manage in the upper. There should be a little floating box that you have, and you can choose whether you see just one pane or all of the panes.
Oh, that's right, because I show video panel. There we go. That's right. Hold on. Let me do that. That's what I want to do. Okay, right. So right now I have kind of a list of people. Now I see Jeremy. All right, that was me. I had to turn it off. And thank you, Heather. All right. So Jeremy, as we kind of talked via email, we can kind of go with some of the pictures that I've put up, or we'll just have you on camera for a little bit. But I wanted to start with you and talk a little bit about what you do for the Nature Conservancy and where controlled burning is in your life, in your work.
You bet. And Paula, just regarding process for the next couple of speakers, how much time do you expect? How much time do we have? Because you have excellent speakers lined up, and we could talk till next week.
Yeah, so let's go with, I'd like to get folks kind of out and about maybe by 8:30. So we've got about 40 minutes at this point.
Okay,
so
wonderful.
If you could maybe keep it to 10 minutes times 4 is 40. How about more along the lines of 6 minutes? And then if we have questions, we'll have time for that.
You bet. Thank you,
Jeremy.
So that was the second time I watched the film, and I enjoyed it just as much as the first. I loved the cinematography. There's that moment in the film that the restored Ponderosa pine forest comes into view, and the gentleman is walking through the tall grass and the big pines, and that was exciting for me. And as a fire practitioner, I'm always thinking about how my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren or beyond, might be able to come into a restored forest like that. And so anyways, I liked that part of it. There was many parts of the film that I thought were really top-notch and excellent. I'm a prescribed fire aficionado. I started fighting fire when I was 14, 15 in my volunteer fire department in a small town in central Colorado. And I worked for the Forest Service on hotshot crews and helicopters. I was in Los Alamos, New Mexico on a hotshot crew during the initial attack of the Cerro Grande. I responded to the South Canyon fire in Glenwood Springs, Colorado in 1994. I have a long history of fire suppression, but my passion is really prescribed fire. And my current job is prescribed fire training around the United States, but also around the world. And we have an international training program. I say that just to help provide some context for potential questions. You know, the things I would like to mention in the 3 remaining minutes. The Black Forest fire in Colorado is a good example of what I think is a facsimile to what might happen in Island Park in the future. Closed canopy forest, dry, windy, stand replacement fire, catastrophic home loss. So if we look at the Black Forest fire, if you just Google it and YouTube some of that fire footage, I think you might recognize, you know, your place that you live in. I think that trying to think about big scale here, I think that the work that the Melher and the Wagner lumber companies were doing is important. I think including fire and fuels reduction, firing and fuels, and integrating the commercial industries into the process is important. And I thought that in this film that what we saw from Malheur was really, you know, excellent and an example of what we can continue to do. So yesterday, I was given an opportunity to apply for a large federal grant. And when I was asked how we should focus that grant, I said we should create permanent positions to implement prescribed fire. So I'm about 28 years into my career, and when given the opportunity to spend money, I think the best use of our money is to implement prescribed fire. Now that happens in a lot of different ways. You can burn piles in the wintertime. You can burn prairies in the spring before green up. You can burn dead logs in the fall just before the snow falls, and a lot of other examples. But when given the opportunity to spend money, I thought the best use of the money was to create positions for people who would burn. Not just burn on public lands, Forest Service and Park Service lands or state parks, but also to burn on private lands. And then in conclusion, there is liability concerns that are related to prescribed fire, and there are process, functions, and insurance in place to help mitigate and manage those concerns and liabilities. And I'll stop with that.
So So these are a couple of pictures. These are all you, right, Jeremy? What were you doing right here?
That's a great photo 10 years ago. That's in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we were hosting a Spanish language prescribed fire training exchange. And one of my partners, Mary Huffman, who leads the Indigenous Peoples Burning Network, snapped a photo there. I'm just providing a briefing.
Very good. Awesome. All right. Awesome. Thank you. Let's move on then to Heather. Heather is a senior instructor at the University of Idaho. And she is the founder and the chairperson of the Idaho, I'm gonna murder this, but the Idaho Prescribed Fire Council. Is that right, Heather?
You got it.
And Heather, I popped up some of the slides from the presentation that you sent me. So maybe I'll just start here. I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about what the Idaho Prescribed Fire Council does and wants to do, and maybe even how Island Park might fit in there.
Absolutely. So I'll first say that what I enjoyed about that video was the collaboration that existed in that group of people. Obviously the video's purpose was clearly to showcase the collaboration that takes place and that's necessary. And what I find really powerful about that is that you bring together people with very divergent thinking. And I think a lot of people would feel really stuck and that they would feel like there's no solution amongst the different possibilities, that one person is really pro something and one person's really against something. And I think that we fall into these categories pretty easily with, clearly I'm a big fan of fire. Right? So I'm going to be this proponent of fire, but I also work very hard to recognize that there's a time and a place and that there's conversations that I need to have with people, not just so that I can change their mind about fire, but so that I can understand them and recognize that they have legitimate concerns, and are there ways that I can work with those concerns and that we can utilize fire. And if fire isn't the tool, what is another tool? I think that the ultimate goal, if we can find common ground with people that have divergent opinions about how to manage, is that we do want to manage for the health and safety of our communities and our ecosystems. And being able to start with that commonality is really, really important because you can get pretty stuck sometimes without being able to make progress if you're really set in what you think the tool is to be able to complete that. So I enjoyed the film for that purpose, and I often watch those things in the context of me using it as a teaching tool in a classroom. I think that would be a wonderful teaching tool to bring into the classrooms of the different things that I teach, just to show students mainly the messages like, you're not going to always talk to people that agree with you. You need to be able to communicate and to be have creative solutions to complex problems. So prescribed fire councils as a concept have been around for 30, 40 years, and they originated in the East, where there was a very obvious need for prescribed fire, where the use or the lack of prescribed fire so quickly leads to degradation of the ecosystem that it just became just a very loud need. And the development of training and collaboration within prescribed fire councils was one of the solutions to increasing and maintaining those ecosystems, those fire adapted ecosystems. And we often think about the East as those fire adapted, right? They need to have fire every 3 to 7 years or something, and if they don't, they lose their species composition. But we in the West also have the fire adapted communities. Our adaptation might be a little bit different. We might not have that frequent of return intervals for our historic fires, but we do have some kind of an interval, right, where it did occur on a regular basis at some point. So as prescribed fire councils started to move to the West, recognizing that these councils have an opportunity to pull people together with divergent voices and to accomplish a similar objective. So this is the mission statement of the Coalition of Prescribed Fire Councils, which is to promote the appropriate use of prescribed fire for enhancing public safety, managing resources, and sustaining environmental quality. And they're for the Idaho Prescribed Fire Council, we also have a mission established, and we have goals along those lines as well. I think that's my last slide. Perfect. There it is.
That one.
One more up. There we go. So what we decided upon, it's neat to form a council, right? You're like, okay, what are we going for, everyone? And we decided that as a council, we really liked these words. So we liked that it was a forum, right? So it's like a group of people, and we were going to advance. We chose advance over promote because we want to advance it, which might not be promoting it all the time, but we want to advance it, improve our technology. How do we do that? And then safely and effectively using prescribed fire across Idaho. We want to be able to understand where prescribed fire can be an effective tool to meet those economic, ecological, social goals that we all have. So the Prescribed Fire Council is intended to bring together people of all backgrounds and interests in Idaho so that we can hear their voice and that we can get their representation and get their ideas and work together to produce some solutions, and depending on the needs that are there. And that's what's been proven to be happening in other prescribed fire councils. And it's been wonderful. As a relatively late to the game prescribed fire council, we really have wonderful opportunities to kind of just piggyback on the work that other prescribed fire councils are doing, because they have worked so hard to create some really interesting programs. Things like certified burn programs. So a lot of folks that introduced themselves, they said that, oh, I fought fire a while ago, or I did this. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. You'd be wonderful. I mean, anybody with any background, honestly, could help with this. But it's fun because I know you probably are a little bit of a thing for it. So to think that and be like, oh yeah, that's right. Get you out there and put a drip torch in your hand, getting you some really clear training in a nice safe environment, all those things. And so to take folks that have an ownership and a love for their land, and to be able to give them some real tangible tools to be able to do something, and do that in a way that is both safe for the landscape, for their home, and for their legal record. All those things, we want to make sure that we're protecting all those things in the process. So that is the Prescribed Fire Council.
Awesome, thank you. Well, this is definitely Island Park Sustainable Fire Community is a diverse group of people and thoughts, and that's, I think, the beauty of us as a group. We've built enough relationship with each other, I think, that we can have these discussions, and need to continue to have these discussions. So thank you, Heather, for that. I really appreciate that, and your coming tonight. Let's go to John White. I don't know, John, if you put your camera on, maybe you'll pop to the front here.
Yeah, can you see me? My camera should be on.
There you are.
Yep, I just had to speak there, make sure I come up. So I just noticed I'm wearing the exact same shirt I was wearing in that photo tonight. So I just want to make sure that you guys recognize me. So I just make
Really
sure to
good.
wear the right photo.
Yeah, that's right. Look at that. That must be your favorite shirt.
It's kind of, I swear I didn't plan it. It just happened to be that way. But anyway, yeah, thanks, Paula. Thanks for letting us on and having this. I guess
He's wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, it's different. I have a ton of respect for both of them. I've worked with both of them, and I feel kind of silly being up on the panel with both of them, but so glad that I've had the opportunity to do this. But just a couple of my 2 cents worth on the video, which I also enjoyed very much and have watched a few times now. California is like maybe some of you, is close to home. I grew up in California, and I spent many years there, and my parents still live there, actually just south of San Francisco. And so Santa Rosa is just on the north side of San Francisco, just north of that area. And so that's pretty close to home. And so it obviously concerns me to see the conditions that they have to deal with. I fought fire in California, just like a lot of folks here on this call have tonight. Worked with a lot of CAL FIRE folks, so pretty scary to see those images, but so glad to see that they're doing a lot to make things better. And they got a lot of good prescribed fire programs going on there, a lot of which wasn't addressed in the video, but they've got a lot of good things going on. And so anyway, I'm glad to see things are moving in the right direction. Anyway, I'll spend just a few minutes kind of talking, kind of bringing it even further closer to home. For those folks on the call tonight, this is kind of, in your neck of the woods. So this is going to be in Island Park, where I'm going to be talking about prescribed fire, both on the Forest Service and off. And so These last couple photos are actually on the Flat Ranch Preserve, which is owned by the Nature Conservancy. And I don't think Matthew's on tonight, but Matthew Ward, who's the manager of the Flat Ranch Preserve, which I think most of you know where this is located, just north of Island Park. And so this is our folks, these are our firefighters from the Forest Service who've been helping burn on the Flat Ranch for the last couple of years. We've got an agreement with them, and we assist them with putting fire on the ground. So this is actually us last year. But when we're not putting fire on the ground on the Nature Conservancy, right now, actually, we're lighting piles. So that next photo, Paula, that you got there, these are piles that you guys have probably seen throughout the district from mechanical treatments that we've created or that we've completed. And these, these piles are made basically from the slash from those mechanical treatments. So basically thinning the smaller trees out from the forest and building piles so that we are reducing basically the stems or trees per acre. And then we will come back during the winter and burn these piles. And this is a picture of one that is about to be burned. And you can continue to scroll through these piles as you want to, but that's what we're doing right now. And actually in Yale Creek, you guys, for those of you that live near Yale Creek, you may have even seen a little bit of smoke the last couple of days. We've been burning a few of those piles just in the last few days. The piles that were built probably 3 years ago, right around the subdivision of Yale Creek to, again, reduce the fuel accumulations and the fuel buildup there right next to the subdivision. So these next couple of photos are actually off the forest as well. We also have an agreement with the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture sheep station, U.S. sheep station on the west side towards the interstate. And we've been burning, we've burned with them many years ago, probably 10 or so years ago before I started. And we've started the process of burning with them again. So mostly sagebrush, but again, we're trying to reduce the buildup of fuels over there. And also, in addition to that, is to try to provide habitat for sagebrush. So a lot of our burns are not just wildland urban interface focused, but it's also for a habitat improvement. So that's why we're doing a lot of those. So we've got quite a few of those photos. You can kind of skip through those. And then we also have these photos that I wanted to show. This is a helicopter with a pretty much a large drip torch. And I think they showed one, if you guys remember the drip torch that they showed in the video, those folks on the ground were using hand drip torches. Well, this is one just basically hanging from a helicopter. And I show this is a helitorch is what we use for lighting a lot of our fires, many acres of our fires. What they lit was in California on that fire was a fire that they could use just small hand drip torches. A lot of the fires that we try to burn with in the forest in these timber communities require many acres that require a helicopter to basically light for us. And so, Paula, as you scroll through these photos, it's just basically showing a helicopter. And these are photos from maybe about 10 years ago from, I believe, the Reynolds fire prescribed burn project that we had, which is over on Reynolds Pass, just north and west of Island Park. And so that's how we get a lot of fire on the ground. You know, it's a controlled environment. There's one pilot in the helicopter putting fire on the ground from that torch. And before that even happens, we've got firefighters on the ground that have already lit the black line or basically a line or a circle or whatever around where the helicopter is going to be lighting to make sure that the fire that the helicopter puts on the ground stays on the ground. And so that's just one tool, one way that we put fire on the ground is through those helicopters. And if we ever get an opportunity in the future to be able to use these tools on a prescribed burn in Island Park or on the Du Bois side where I also work, then you guys might see this in action. So yeah, I think I've run my time, but that's kind of the prescribed burning that we have done and that we may do in the future in the Island Park area.
All right, thanks, John. And then our last panelist, oh, what is this again? This is maybe some of those fires burning, I'm not sure.
Yeah, just kind of a bigger picture, just looking back from the helicopter at what it had lit already. So yeah, again, Reynolds Pass prescribed burn.
Okay, and we wanted to maybe talk a little bit about smoke in the air. And that's, oh, I should have put the one pile next to that picture, huh? This is Yell Creek piles burning, yes?
It is, yep, just a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Mm.
Fun to watch. Bring your hot dogs.
Yeah, we do, literally.
All right. And then the last person we have tonight is Ken Watts. And I think Ken sent along some pictures closer to his subdivision. Ken is, like I said, a columnist for the Island Park News and is really very active in our community. So Ken, if you would start speaking, so you come up on our.
Okay. You hear me?
There you are. Yay, 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 yay.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to hearing, because I appreciate some of these pictures you sent along. So let me kind of start with this and tell us a little bit about yourself and again, and your interest in what
Okay.
we're looking at.
Sure. I grew up in Sandpoint, northern Idaho, and at that time, I'm an old geezer, so that time forest products were the entire city of Sandpoint and the surrounding area. So, almost all of my family members were involved in one way or another, and working at the mills and at railroad tie plants put me through college at the University of Idaho. Go Vandals. And I did appreciate the opportunity to get out with an engineering degree there. So that's a little background on as far as the video. The people that I have to deal with as a member of our HOA and in here in Island Park are primarily Forest Service, BLM, and Fish and Game. And the video had almost none of those people in there. And so I would have liked to have seen the people that I deal with and get their perspective, because this is their land around me. And I didn't hear anything from them. Okay, so that's what I would call sort of a weakness of the video. I think it gets your attention when you can see the damage that can be done, and hopefully that'll motivate people to do something. Turning to the photograph here, this is an area that was logged about 4 or 5 years ago by the Idaho Department of Lands. Wilmore Lumber, a local lumber company here, did this area, and I decided to go out and get some pictures, and you can kind of see some of the restoration of the aspen here. And I thought I could just go out there and easily drive into this, the skid trails that were there. And you had to kind of search. This area has really come back. A key thing about this area is this is an elk calving ground. And while I was out there, there were a lot of elk out there. They come in there every year to calve in this area, and it's quite a treat for us here. This is about half a mile from where our subdivision is and where my cabin is. Okay, next picture, Paula.
Hold on. I'm almost there. Okay.
Okay, now this is between where that area was logged and our subdivision area, and you can see sagebrush and grass areas. Now this is BLM land now, and there are grazing leases here. It used to be grazed by Truid Ranch, and they would never put any of the cattle in this area until late August. Well, by that time, the grasses here were about 3 feet tall, all dried out and quite scary, because this is to the southwest of where our subdivision is. People in the subdivision would go beg Truid Ranch to turn the cows in to eat the grass and knock some of it down. The lease has since been transferred over to Spencer Brown, and he owns some land next to this lease. So he puts the cows in this place first in the spring, leaves them about 2 weeks, and then turns them into other allotments and then brings them back in August. The thing we've noticed about the change in the way he does the rotation is we used to see 4 or 5 antelope out here, and now in the summer we'll see 20 and 30 out there. So somehow that rotation has really improved the habitat for the antelope. And so he's done something good there. I don't know why it works, but it's working. Okay, next.
I think this is,
Okay, this. Go ahead. Yeah, this is fine. Double screen's fine here. On the left hand side here, this is BLM again, and this was mechanically treated. Of the smaller trees taken out, things that were limbed, and you can see some of the burn piles in there, and you can see how it's been opened up in there. The thing that we're seeing in this area is a lot more deer coming into this area because it's more open. Just to the west of here, they took out larger trees as they did the mechanical thinning, and a lot of the piles didn't burn. So there's a lot of kind of ugly looking piles out there. I don't see them as doing any harm at all, but you know, they are there. To the right, this is the area that was just logged a year ago by Wilcox Lumber, or actually it's Wilcox Logging. They just log the areas and then ship a lot of their logs to Montana and surrounding mills. But this on the right is right adjacent to vision, literally 20 feet to the right, and you would be in our subdivision. And they've really cleared this out nicely and provided a really great buffer for us around our subdivision. Next. Have you got an, oh, there we go. All right, this is actually on my property. The Sustainable Fire Community helped me set up as a demonstration area, and they helped clear part of this area, and I cleared part of it. I'd have to say within the subdivision, we have 30 lots, and probably about 8 of those have been cleaned up pretty well. In my mind, not good enough yet. You can see our spacing. It really isn't good enough yet if we had a really bad wildfire come through. But I work with the people in the subdivision, and we go through and we take out a few more trees every year and try to make it a little bit safer. Then the Island Park Sustainable Fire Community is going to be cleaning up for some of the neighbors this summer. They continue to pick up slash for us. And so we're going to see a great amount of progress here. And this subdivision is kind of right in line going toward Yale Creek, where John White has been working. And so, you know, we're helping in a small way, I guess, alleviate the fire that can move to the northeast from where we're at. And, you know, the point is the Forest Service, the BLM, the Idaho Department of Lands, and also the Island Park Sustainable Fire Committee are working as a team to make us safer. And I just talked to the BLM guys again yesterday, and they're going to do some more mechanical thinning around our subdivision. So we love them. We really do. So that's all I have, Paul.
Thank you, Ken. All right. You guys are amazing. Thank you again so much for coming and giving your perspective on the film and your perspective on what you do in terms of you know, fire and fuel management in our forests to keep our homes sustainable should we have a wildfire. We have about maybe 5 minutes if folks want to ask a question of our panelists or a question of the group. That would be fantastic. You could do it in the chat, but you could also, if you would, just turn on your turn on your camera and ask away. You have to give wait time, I know, because
Well, I really don't have any questions. I think the panelists did a very good job. And then it gave me a little bit different outlook on prescribed burning. To me, prescribed burning was basically setting at a fire and hoping you could contain it. But you know, setting fields afire, including the piles. I have did quite a burning on my property, and one thing I noticed, I got fires a little bit too big. I kind of scored some trees, but then the next year, all of the needles pretty well came back. You know, I was really surprised at that, and or even burning the logs, the old logs, that's basically what I did on mine. Anything that I could salvage for firewood, I did. And the video, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Some of the areas that they showed, I think grazing could do a lot more than the prescribed burning of the grasses. And in particular, you need to get more people involved, the ranchers, farmers, and get them involved to where they'll, like Ken says, rotate their grazing. And my discussions with Ken last night was that it actually really, by rotating the grazing out on the BLM there from the spring and again in the fall, it sounds like it significantly decreased the wildfire risk. And I think we need to get some more of the local farmers and ranchers involved, in particular where their properties are up close to some of our subdivisions. I thank you, Paul. I think it was a great presentation.
thanks, Joe. Thanks for your comments. Any other, let's see if there are some questions coming in, perhaps.
This is Ken Brink. I have a question. You know, I worked in natural resources myself, and I can remember as a young man going out and putting out 1 acre fires, working for the Forest Service, and working in both state and local government in that realm as well. But my question is this: my observation throughout my career was, you know, when I was first in the field, just out of college in the 80s, all of our Green Forest Service trucks were out on the forest, and we were taking care of the forest. And then the longer I watched my career go on, all those trucks were in the back of the office. We were mostly answering in the lawsuits related to NEPA. And so it's interesting. We had a big route divide blowdown near a state park I managed years ago. And I'll never forget a local resident that lived near me. He had actually signed a letter from the Natural Resource Defense Fund saying we shouldn't take any of those trees out of there. And then only about, a few years later in 2002, I heard that date come up. We were out there trying to put out Circle Complex fire. I remember the lawsuit said if we cut some of those trees, it would put sediment in the creek and impact the fish. And I was looking at a hillside that day with my friend John, who was also a firefighter, and I said, how much sediment do you think those 7 bulldozers that are cutting that fire line and putting that creek, John? And it's just sad to me that like so many things in our country, there's so much litigation that I think it almost makes it impossible for the Forest Service to implement a lot of the tools that I would like to see on the forest. My question to the panel is, I'm not sure we're going to make any substantial progress without partnership with at least small scale timber industry involvement. And I'm just wondering, is there any hope that the endless lawsuits that paralyze the Forest Service can in some ways be mitigated or managed?
Well, I guess I'll take a stab at that, being that I'm Forest Service. You hit a pretty good nerve there, Ken, with me. You're basically telling me exactly what I've been dealing with for the last couple of months with this big aspen project that I've been trying to get going there in Island Park, and we got litigated, and it is no longer going to happen, at least in the form that it was originally proposed. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I don't know how to answer that. It's a difficult and a tricky situation. You want to give the public who owns the land the opportunity to have a share at what goes on the land, and that's why we have an environmental process that gives the public options, or gives the public a voice in what we do. We're the ones that manage their land, and so it's difficult. I was trying to, specific to this project, I was trying to restore 40,000 acres of aspen habitat within Island Park, using all of the tools that you talked about, mechanical thinning, timber sales, and prescribed burning. And I thought it would have been a great project for the next 10 years or more. But other people, not even in the state of Idaho, disagreed, and they unfortunately were able to stop the process. And so I hope, though, in the future that we can start a similar process, just maybe smaller, different scale. I thought going at a bigger scale was really the answer. We have to think about our problems at a landscape scale, at a watershed scale. But maybe that's just too big of a bite to chunk off. Maybe some people are just not used to that and not ready for that. So maybe if we just work smaller scale and just do a lot of it, maybe that's how we go from here. I'm not sure. It's difficult. It's difficult to answer, and I'd be happy to allow other folks to share on that.
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn because I'm not at the same consequences that you are, John. But I was encouraged in the show tonight watching that video about the folks there in John Day, Oregon. The environmental community coming together with the timber industry, and it's just somehow it's got to come to that, those collaborative relationships. Hopefully not following some catastrophic fire or anything, but just to be working on those continually and just nurturing those and have honest relationships or friendships, where you're open and honest with each other. And when you do make a proposal like that, the folks I know they were there on those field trips with you, John, but just that they're willing to listen and put in their 2 cents worth at that time. But just that collaboration, I think, is needed, and it just needs to be nurtured as well. Just give and take on all sides.
Hey, Paula, I think it's great. The video was fantastic. Ken Watts, Ken Brink, you bring a good point. Ken has been involved in a collaborative in this area, and I'd like him to speak about that just a moment. But this kind of thing here is exactly necessary. We need to have all these functions and people learn what is important about collaborative treatment of the forests. So Ken, speak to me about that collaborative you're involved with.
Okay, it's called the Targhee Forest Collaborative, and it's been operating for a little over a year now. It was put together by Idaho Forest Products. Willie Peck actually started putting it together. He actually lives in Montana. There were people brought in from the conservation and environmental organizations, county commissioners, quite a large array of people. There were a few private citizens, but we normally see them drop out because they're not paid to participate like all the other people are. So you sort of start losing, the private citizens. We've been looking at projects in the Du Bois Ranger District, and they're associated with thinning, mechanical treatment, and logging. And hopefully some of those projects will move forward if they don't get litigated, John. And maybe they will. I think they're smaller and a little more discreet, so possibly they'll slip through. I'm sure John can address that way better than I can. I guess I'd have to, if to be totally honest, I'm not really hopeful on this collaborative, but I'm trying to keep an open mind. I first started attending as chairman of the Island Park Preservation Coalition, and the coalition voted that no, we don't want to participate, and so I'm involved as a private citizen now. So hey, it's a struggle. I mean, you know, developing trust, as you saw in the video, is really a difficult thing to do. So it takes patience, and I've got little, so and I'm old, so hopefully it'll work out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna respect everyone's time because we're kind of moving into the, past 8:30. I want to thank our panelists again for coming and giving us your perspective on the film. I want to thank everyone who came tonight for watching it and giving participating tonight. I really enjoy these kinds of events, and so it's great. Hopefully our next Island Park Sustainable Filer Community Learning Opportunity will be in person. Yes, at the end of June. So and I'll get the information out about that. Any last comments for the good of the cause for our group tonight, Dave?
Yeah, I'm up in Tongass National Forest here, which they have a lot of used to be big pulp mills here. I lived here for 15 years, and I'm up in Alaska right now in Ketchikan. And I watched some of the clear cutting areas today, and out on the boat, seeing crab pots, and I just hope the best for our forests. But I do want to say that I really enjoyed this panel, and I want everybody to just think about what is important about Island Park. Island Park, the only thing important about Island Park is the forest. And so if we don't have a sustainable forest, we don't have Island Park. And so, so anyway, take care, and thank you very much for coming.
Again, thank you again, Jeremy, Heather, John, Ken, thank you again for your input, and thanks for everyone for coming tonight. And we will see you the end of June for our hopefully our in-person meeting. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And more information on that.
Thank you, Paula.
Ready?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Paula.
Great program.
Thank you, Paula. Appreciate you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Paula.
Thanks.
And everybody.
Good night, all.